valued member of the 9 to Noon radio show joins. And we began the conversation because we had to record it earlier today with wondering where Alec was, man. He's been in Florida, he's been in Alabama, he lives in Minnesota. So I'm like, are you in Alabama? Are you here? And if so, welcome home.
No, I'm back. I flew back last night. Obviously, when the Nolan Teasley news emerges, and you don't know when the press conference is, you got to get back. So the engagement party was great. Seeing the family was great. But, I mean, it's a work day. We're back at it, trying to get people on the phone. You know how it is.
A Nolan Teasley, as we have focused on a majority of the first hour of 9 to Noon, a Nolan Teasley is the new general manager for the Minnesota Vikings. And holy cow, this is going to be good. Are you ready, Alec?
I am.
All right. From his updated story at The Athletic and theathletic.com, quote, "It's a big hire. It should be wide open," one AFC executive said in early May. All right, that's early May. I've been wondering, how is John Eric Sullivan?
I mean, I knew. I mean, there was a lot of NFC executives, NFC scouts. I mean, you could go a lot of places with this. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm reading this story, just going, well, how is this guy, and how is Drew Rosenhaus? All right, so please define, and this may be low-hanging fruit, but let's start here. Please define why this is a big hire, and was Teasley a long shot to prevail?
Yeah, I'd say the reason it's a big hire, or was a big hire, and it was viewed throughout the league, most importantly, as one, is really because of the infrastructure of this organization. Like, I think people around the league, I mean, really view positively what Kevin O'Connell and what this coaching staff can accomplish. I think they view positively the amount of resources that ownership is willing to provide. And I think, I mean, really, more than anything, it's like, can the Vikings get to a place where they have a process from a front office standpoint that is at the pinnacle and that can allow this organization to sustain winning? And so I think that's why it was viewed as such an important job, and one that was important for the Vikings to cast a wide net. As far as Nolan Teasley being a long shot, I actually would say, I mean, probably not, in the sense that if you just blindfold executives, scouts, and agents at the time of when the first list of names came out, I mean, I remember hearing from a lot of people among the list. I mean, obviously Rob Brzezinski stood out for his experience. And then you had a guy like Nolan Teasley. I remember multiple people saying, like, he's really sharp, he's really well liked at the time. And so the question, I think, for everybody was, would the Vikings covet familiarity, or would they be willing to, you know, I'd say seek external with this hire? Now, I will say he and Kevin O'Connell have had a relationship, so it's not like it's just a complete wild card bringing in somebody who people didn't know. I mean, Kevin O'Connell really knew Nolan Teasley through John Schneider, the Seahawks GM, so it all makes sense when you really lay the cards out on the table.
It's approaching the middle part of the Monday presentation. This is EAS, an emergency Alec segment, because the Minnesota Vikings have hired a general manager. They did so over the weekend. Follow Alec via X at Alec_Lewis. He's with The Athletic and theathletic.com. Now, Teasley was Seattle's assistant general manager. From that story, one agent familiar with the process said, quote, "At least they swung. You can respect that," end quote. So does Tom Condon still have a bevy of big-name clients? I've been wondering that for a little while. And when it comes to, at least with this source, when the source says, quote, "at least they swung," what does that mean?
Yeah, I hope Tom Condon is doing well. I believe one of our writers, Dan Pompei, just profiled him recently. But I think, you know, with that comment, "at least they swung," it was essentially, you know, with these hires, I would say there's always a question, both in head coaching searches and general manager searches, of, like, how how open is it really? Like how willing is the ownership group to actually play out the process, to actually listen throughout all the interviews, or how much of it is just kind of a finalizing what was the perspective from the outset? And I will say this, throughout the entire process, part of why it was so murky in terms of what the Vikings would do is because people within the league felt like it was a very deliberate, legitimate process. And this, I think, resolution kind of validates that belief throughout the process held true. So, Nolan Teasley, assistant GM from the Seahawks, really rose the ranks from being an intern. So it's a pretty cool deal. It just sounds like a really, really sharp guy from every conversation I've had.
Right. And the, your sources clearly and obviously are legit. So, when that person says at least they swung, and I can respect that, into the 2022 season when it was Kevin O'Connell as the new head coach and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was hired as general manager. Matt, maybe I'm wrong with this, Alec. I'm not mad at that Kwesi hire into the 2022. They took a swing with an outside of the box approach. Ain't no doubt about that. The extend him, then he's gone trick that's probably not preferred. But why is this swing different than the swing into the 2022?
Yeah, that's the very correct question to ask, because this swing, I would say it feels like it's much more calculated, and I would say the informed part of the swing, I guess the analogy would be like, rather than just swinging at any pitch, the ownership knew which type of pitch they were wanting to swing at, right, and they connected. That's kind of how I would describe it. Nolan Teasley, first and foremost, again, he has a prior relationship with Kevin O'Connell, and they I think see eye to eye on a lot of things, which is critical. And not that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell didn't, but to build that bridge from the outset, I think is important. I think he's obviously, he entered through scouting, and so the way he rose the ranks is looking at football players via tape evaluation, which is and probably should be kind of the backbone of your evaluation. He's been alongside a team that just won a Super Bowl. He's watched the construction of multiple Super Bowl winning rosters, and from every conversation, again, it just seems like he has really good feel. He's easy to get along with. He's never going to have to be the voice in the room that is probably talking to hear themselves speak. Just a very I'd say cerebral guy as well. And so for all of those reasons, this swing, I think, is much more of a sensible approach than hiring Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in 2022 when they did, given his lack of probably just managerial understanding of what the job actually entails.
Very, very fairly laid out. Now there undoubtedly will be a press conference featuring new Vikings general manager Nolan Teasley at some point this week, probably middle of the week. As I mentioned earlier, 9 to noon, the radio show is going to be at the Vikings facility on Monday, and we're going to have a sit-down one-on-one with the new general manager Nolan Teasley. But nevertheless, there still are a lot of questions to answer. And hopefully, I'm not putting you in a weird spot because the press conference hasn't happened yet, but like from what you know, what becomes of Rob Brzezinski?
Yeah, I think for multiple weeks I kind of said that I very much expected Rob Brzezinski to play a role in the decision-making structure in some form or fashion for this organization moving forward. And so, I really just view it as kind of a trio. Obviously people are going to be triangle authority and that will catch people's ear or what have you. And so I'm not going to use that phrase.
Right.
I just think you've got three guys who are three experts in their field, and Kevin O'Connell as the team's head coach and play caller, in Rob Brzezinski from a financial negotiating and connector kind of standpoint, and then Nolan Teasley as a personnel executive who understands the process of decision making. I think the one underrated or under-discussed aspect of this Nolan Teasley hire, in my opinion, is that Seattle's decision-making structure, like John Schneider, their GM, has been the backbone. The scouting has kind of driven their process. But to act as if they have not dipped their toes in performance science, in analytics, in all of that, I think would not be accurate. And so I think one thing with Nolan Teasley is his ability to now bridge some of the information from Tyler Williams' staff on the medical side to start to kind of, just take in all elements of information. I think it's going to be really beneficial. And I think Rob Brzezinski will remain, he will have a major role because of the respect that other people have for him internally and because of the respect that people have for him throughout the league. I mean, that became abundantly clear. I've said this to you. You know this very well, PA, probably better than anybody. The Rob Brzezinski is the cap guy so far underplays the role that he has had. I mean, he has been the primary point of contact with almost every big-time agent and every negotiation that the Vikings have done for 15 or 20 years. And you have to have someone in that role with a ton of ability and a ton of tact. And so I don't think it'll shift in that he will play a massive role in every acquisition that will be made, whether you hear about it or not.
Alec, with Nolan Teasley, what does he walk into from a salary cap and future pick scenario?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty a solid slate. I think it's a pretty clear path to start to build this thing. Obviously, the quarterback component of it will drive everything else, as it always does. But they will have a bevy of salary cap space, for 2027. That's part of the process and the credit probably that should go to Rob Brzezinski for starting to, I'd say, clear the books a little bit and reset after the team spent a ton of money the last couple of years. So that is advantageous. And then from a draft perspective, I think this past draft is going to be critical as Nolan Teasley starts to kind of assimilate within the organization. But, I think if you ask people around the league, what is he walking into? It's a pretty exceptional situation so long as they can build the bridges internally and build alignment. And then I think the next biggest question is what other changes, additions, adjustments happen on the staff? Do those happen this cycle, or do they have to wait until next cycle? I mean, those are the questions I think people have started to ask me. I've started to ask people now, and those will be important as the Vikings try to rework this thing and provide the best level of information for him to make decisions with.
Yeah, I'm probably with the press conference coming up later this week and moving forward, I'm envisioning collaboration is going to be a key word around there again, and especially right now. I mean, and I think it's fair because I wonder how it's going to work if O'Connell or Flores feel they absolutely have to have somebody. And now you have Teasley in his role. Know what I mean?
Absolutely. And look, collaboration, synergy, alignment, they are phenomenal words, and they are great things to strive for. But in these high-pressured, ego-infused worlds that the NFL is, those words become tested over time. And so I think the most important thing with Nolan Teasley entering and with Nolan Teasley moving forward and with the Vikings staff and attempt at that collaboration moving forward is going to be for all parties to have a lot of respect for the acumen of one another. And I think that's part of the reason. One of the first things someone said to me when this hire was official, someone internally from the Vikings was like, really strong football acumen. And I think that can generate respect among the other folks internally with strong football acumen, which is critical when you are navigating those difficult conversations where one coach is dead set on a player, front office maybe not as committed, and you have to work through that. And that happens in every building, but working through it positively in a way that doesn't fizzle away at just the respect factor, I think, is the most important thing. And I think they are set up now to proceed with that kind of as the guiding light as they do make decisions.
So professionally speaking, with OTAs, organized team activities taking place, the mandatory mini camp is next week. Then the rookies are around for part of a week, and then poof, they're gone for like 5-6 weeks. Come back for training camp. So Teasley right now, I would imagine, like when he starts working on the job for the 2026, he probably starts mashing film and crunching numbers to like see who needs to be cut, like who stays and who goes, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would imagine, and again, I haven't met him, I haven't spoken to him, so it's a lot of what I've heard from people who are in Seattle and elsewhere. Like, I'd imagine he's going to be very methodical in taking in as much information via tape, via conversations, via, going back through scouting reports probably that he's done over time. And that's the one thing I will say, like, one of his roles in Seattle, and this is kind of interesting, he's been kind of in charge of the advanced scouting process. People don't really know about this, but teams have scouts that go on the road to watch the teams that their team is going to play weeks in advance. Yep. And they start to build kind of a database of, the personnel that the team's supposed to face. And so, like, I because the Vikings have played Seattle in recent years, I do think there will be somewhat of a database that he can go directly back towards, but I don't expect him to enter, and be making a ton of decisions. I expect him to defer to a lot of people who are the experts on the current staff, and then you would just hope that over time, and I think this is the important thing for me to talk about and mention, like, it takes time to transition processes. It takes time for someone to establish footing and make good decisions. John Schneider, the GM of the Seahawks, has been there for more than a decade and has been able to make good decisions, bad decisions, learn from those decisions. And so I think in the best case scenario here, the Vikings are set up where this is a long-haul perspective of two guys in Kevin O'Connell and Nolan Teasley working together, making decisions, learning from good ones, learning from bad ones, and setting this team up, again, to get to a place that they really have not been able to get to in recent years.
The Vikings hired a general manager Saturday. His name is Nolan Teasley, formerly the assistant general manager for the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. A few to close here with EAS. This is an emergency Alec segment on a Monday, middle portion of the radio show. And perhaps we see you later this week, but off topic for a second. If you had to set 5 receivers for the team, now they might keep 6, but if you had to set 5 receivers for the team to keep, they'd be Jefferson, Addison, Jennings, and which 2?
Man, good question. And this is the fun. We're almost in this stage where this is the everyday talk, and holy cow, is that going to be fun. Ty Felton would be one of them. And then, does Miles Price count, or he's the kick returner? That's the question. I would say the sneaky wild card is the undrafted kid from Georgia, Dylan Bell. He popped for me last week, so I've got my eye on that guy.
3 quarterbacks on the active, right?
Yes. Yeah, I would be stunned if there wasn't. That's all I need to say about that for today, probably.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, well, what do you think of this, speaking of quarterbacks? And I'm being fair with this. I mean, records are records, streaks are streaks, all right? I wonder what Nolan Teasley, the new general manager for the Minnesota Vikings, thinks about the team's quarterbacks. All right? Last time he saw Max Brosmer, his team shut out the Vikings. Kyler is 2-9 versus Seattle and on an 8-game losing streak. And Wentz is 0-5 versus the Seattle Seahawks, including a playoff loss that wretched pandemic season. McCarthy has just 10 starts. I mean, I'd love to know the 10 of 10 truth on what Nolan Teasley thinks of the team's quarterback's room.
I bet he'll tell us the 10 of 10 truths in his interviews this week. I'd guarantee. No, it is fascinating. I mean, he's seen Kyler up close many, many times over. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they were, if I'm not mistaken, throughout the draft process, in the lead up to drafting J.J. McCarthy, I believe Seattle, I mean, I know they had been talked about the year before within quarterbacks, but I would guarantee that they have an extensive kind of history of evaluation with J.J. McCarthy. And then, I mean, the Carson Wentz situation. So there's no doubt that, I'll say this, there's no doubt that Kevin O'Connell is going to drive this process. So whatever happens here it's not going to be Nolan Teasley came in and decided this. That's what I would say. But it would, no question with his experience, I'd say to hear what he thinks of them, but even to hear how he talks about them, like, I think that's going to be interesting for me as well.
I appreciate the time for the emergency Alec segment, the old EAS on a Monday. Probably we'll see you at a press conference later this week. Thank you very much for the time and have a great day, okay?
Thanks, PA. And I'll tell Tom Condon you were curious, but I'll let you know. Thanks.
Did you just say condom? Or did you?
Tom Condon.
Come on, man. All I'm going to say is welcome home. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Alec Lewis of The Athletic and theathletic.com. This is 9 to noon, talking extensively about Nolan Teasley, the new general manager for the Minnesota Vikings. We have a topic break around the corner. Mick Tockett, Pat Micheletti, a Monday special. He's Monday Mick. He's going to join 9 to noon to slap a fat old preview on the Stanley Cup Final for the radio program. And those of you who are so kind enough to listen, and that's next at FM 100.3 KFAN.
You're listening live to Paul Allen and 9 to noon on iHeartRadio and FM 100.3 KFAN, The Fan.
From the 1-800
Mick Tockett. Main man Pat Micheletti is a Monday staple, 9 to noon, specifically during hockey season. At Pat Mick 2626 via X, at Pat Mick 2626 via X. And the elite hockey mind joins us now. Why? Stanley Cup Final from Raleigh begins tomorrow night. It's Vegas and the Carolina Hurricanes, and Mick Tockett joins us now. What excites you about the Stanley Cup Final? And good morning.
I'm surprised that Vegas is in, but they have turned my head a little bit and are playing exceptionally well right now under John Tortorella. I'm not surprised at Carolina. I've loved their team all season long, just the way they're built and the way that they play. And so I think you know what? To me, it's going to be a pick'em final.
So why so surprised with Vegas? And whether it's something you've read or heard or seen with Tortorella, with Cassidy out, Torch comes in, the whole thing turns around. What led to that?
Well, I think what he did was, he came in and said, okay, I've got a veteran group. I've got some really, really good players. I'm going to leave them alone. I'm going to kind of guide them to the way that we need to play and let them play. And, he's just kind of thrown it back to the locker room. And that was the biggest change from Bruce Cassidy to Tortorella, in my opinion. But let's go back to why I didn't like them. heading into the playoffs. Their goaltending was atrocious, and Aiden Hill kind of had the net, and they gave up a lot of goals, and they just weren't playing well with him in the net. Carter Hart takes over, and he's been terrific for him. And every year, what do we say at this time of the year? Your goaltending is going to win it or lose it for you, and he's been great, and that's why they're there.
All right, let's land the plane on that. Better goalie situation beginning tomorrow night. The Canes with Anderson or Golden Knights Connor Hart?
I like Carter Hart much better than I do Frederik Andersen. Now, that being said, Anderson was terrific in the first two rounds. Got a little leaky in the conference final. Was giving up some goals that typically you don't want to give up at this time of the year. And so, to me, he could be kind of the X factor. If he does play well, then you got to kind of give the advantage to the Canes, because I think 1 through 4, the Canes are deeper than Vegas is, and they play a stifling defense. Their forecheck is relentless, and so the biggest key for me in this series is, can Vegas check them, and secondly, do they have the endurance to play a 7-game series against a team like Carolina? That to me is going to be the telltale story in the series.
Patrick, I love that, because in watching the latter stages of the Eastern Conference Final, Montreal became so frustrated and became so undisciplined because they couldn't get the puck out of their zone. They just
right.
They couldn't threaten any way. And then Montreal embarrassed itself tail into that Eastern Conference Final with a bunch of undisciplined penalties. I mean, Martin St. Louis cannot be happy about that, right?
Right. And that happens when you take undisciplined penalties. It's because you're tired. And if you look at the minutes played by the Montreal forwards and some of their defense, including Hudson, they just didn't have the depth. He had no choice but to play his big guns all the time, or big guns, his top players, however you want to phrase it. And when you're playing as a forward, the amount of minutes that some of those guys played, and you get tired, well, then you take stupid penalties, and that's exactly what happened. Montreal is going to be a really, really good team, and they have some up and coming players coming, but they don't have enough of them yet. And so, a team like Carolina says, okay, we lose game 1, big deal. We're going to keep playing the same way, and we are going to wear you down. And that's exactly what happened in the series, and they dominated.
How do the Canes stay good year after year? I mean, Brenda Moore clearly does a good job, but they've made the playoffs like 8 years in a row, and that includes several conference finals berths. How are they always so good?
Well, I think they have a lot of depth, and the big knock on them is that they didn't have that upper echelon guy to get them over the edge. I mean, they've been there every year. I don't know how many Eastern Conference Finals they've been to. I don't know. They made the playoffs the last 8 years in a row, and they've been to, you can look it up and see how many Eastern Conference Finals that they've been to. And so, I think what they've added is just more depth in their lineup. And if you look at their lineup, I mean, they're getting the majority of their scoring from their second line, which Taylor Hall has resurrected his career, and and might win the Conn Smythe if they win the Stanley Cup. He's been that good. But they've added players like Jackson Blake. They get the Stankoven kid, who Dallas had to give up for Rantanen.
Right.
And so they've added pieces like that. Their decor, they may not be your most I don't know what word we're looking for, a fancy player, but they're six deep there, and they trust every one of them. And they play a defensive system that is just, they don't give you any room. And so, that's what's led them to the year that they've had and where they are today, sitting in a chance to win a Stanley Cup.
Jackson Blake, Eden Prairie High School, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
and his father Jason had a great career at North Dakota and with the Canes and the New York Islanders, and he plays just like his father, just an excellent player.
Yeah, Jackson Blake caught fire late in the Eastern Conference Final. He's a fine player, isn't he?
Oh, you're darn right he is, and he's only 5'9", but he plays like he's 6'2". He's not afraid of anybody. He handles the puck well, skates well, really smart player, and he's on a line with Stankoven and Taylor Hall, and they've just, they're really, really good and fun to watch.
Taylor, with the Edmonton Oilers. Taylor Hall's been around a decade and a half. So, I mean, we have McDavid, we have Draisaitl and so on, but Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Taylor Hall were two of the most hyped and ballyhooed players to come into the league in quite some time. And Taylor Hall's been around a decade and a half, man. And after playing for a bunch of teams, he seems like he really fits in with Carolina. He has 16 points this postseason. What's gotten into Taylor Hall?
Well, he unfairly, he was put on this pedestal of being the next Wayne Gretzky. And, all the pressure of playing in Edmonton and the Gretzky name. And so, a lot of the expectations were too high for him when he first came out. He's a really solid player and always has been. And in fact, I think he won the Hart Trophy one year, with Edmonton. But, and then, as he got older, his role changed a little bit and, he somehow caught fire. And that, you never not stop being a good player, but sometimes, you just get into a little funk and he has found it here in Carolina and he's just been terrific.
So Carolina, is reliant on some veterans and I love what you said earlier where, this is not a shiny toy type team, where Sebastian Aho's been there forever. He's probably the most prominent name they have, but nobody ever considers him like one of the 20, 25, 30 best players in the NHL. And kind of same with Vegas, relying on some veterans. But this 20 for Carolina, this 24-year-old winger, Seth Jarvis, plays a ton and is good. And I wasn't super familiar with him really until this year. How important is he to the Canes equation?
Extremely important. And, I'll give you a little fun fact. During the COVID year, he was deciding upon playing in the Western Hockey League. And had he not done that, he would have been a member of Scott Sandlin's team up at UMD, and so he was very close to being under Scott's tutelage for a year or two. But nonetheless, Jarvis was with Montreal, and Carolina offered him a monster deal, and Montreal did not. It was a restricted free agent type thing, and Montreal didn't match it and let him walk to Carolina. But, he's a guy, and like all the guys on Carolina, that's what I love about Carolina, is that there is no quasi-star on that team. They have a bunch of just really, really good players who don't care if they're, if they don't get on the power play, if they don't get on the penalty kill. They just play. And whatever role is given to them, they play it and don't care. And that's the kind of the mantra of the Carolina Hurricanes team this season.
Now, time for two more. Pat Micheletti, Elite Hockey Mind, Mondays with Mick, a staple 9 to noon, at Pat Mick 2626 via X, at Pat Mick 2626. Now, I don't know if Jack Eichel is considered the best two-way player in the NHL during the regular season. He's been the best two-way player of all the teams in the postseason. Is he truly one of the 1, 2, or 3 best two-way players in the NHL?
In my opinion, yes. If you watch him when he has the puck, you have all 5 defenders' eyes on him. And when that happens, you know this player is special. And, he's got that long stick. He's got that stride. He's got really deceptive speed. And you don't know what he's going to do when he has the puck. Now, that's on the offensive side. And what he has done defensively, because he doesn't have, he hasn't been as productive on the offensive side in this playoffs. But who cares? You look what he's doing in his own end and preventing goals, blocking shots, breaking up plays. It has been so instrumental in these playoffs for the Golden Knights. And to answer your question, in my opinion, yes, he is.
Vegas and Raleigh, as in Raleigh, North Carolina, are non-traditional hockey markets and smaller TV markets, comparatively speaking. Does that matter to the NHL? Is this a league where they pull for the blue bloods or bigger TV markets to get to the Cup?
They would like to because, the game is growing. There is more interest in it, but you look at the ratings and they've certainly improved, and that's wonderful. TNT and ESPN, have done a relatively good job. I think TNT has done a better job. But deep down they're thinking, it would be nice to see New York, Chicago, New York, LA, type markets, to get the Stanley Cup playoffs in. And now, Paul, it's June 1st, and I wish that this would be over in May, and it's going to run till, potentially up to June 20th. In my opinion, hockey should not be played in June. And so, people are going to be outside barbecuing. They're going to be outside enjoying, sitting on their patio and just relaxing. And the games are going to be on, at 7:00 or whenever they're on, right? Or a Sunday afternoon. And you're just not going to get the ratings. I don't care who it is at this time of the year.
Okay. Lastly, Carolina is minus 155 to win the series. Who do you like and why?
Well, I'm going to go Vegas because of the goaltending. I said that from the outset. I think goaltending will win this series. Vegas is playing very well. But then again, you look at Carolina and how they play and how they wear you down. I think the odds are, 150, minus 150 for Carolina. I think that is really, really fair, 155. I think that's really fair. But I'm going to go with the upset and take Vegas.
Okay, lastly, we promised the Belmont Stakes this Saturday. Watch and wager, be a part of history at Canterbury Park. Our live racing begins that day at 5 o'clock. Belmont probably within an hour of the first race at Canterbury. The Belmont Stakes with a big field, including Derby winner Golden Tempo. Should I expect you to text me midday Saturday with $300 in bets?
I always love that one.
Well, what do you think? I mean, ask yourself if that was a dumb question.
That's going to happen, and then it's going to be like, Mick, where are you? Well, I can't drive right now. I'm like, yeah, well, that's convenient. All right, we'll figure something out for this weekend. God bless you and your family. Thank you for the time. Appreciate you.
All right, you're the best. Thank you.
See ya, Pat Micheletti, Mick Tockett, beloved Mick Tockett, at Pat Mick 2626 News du Nord is next.
This is 9 to noon, live on iHeartRadio.
What up? Welcome back. It's News du Nord. News du Nord's always brought to you by V Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. And my goodness, is it a party out there down in Shakopee. Best place in town to go. Bring the whole family. Now, feeling the felt, of course, poker, blackjack, and table games all year round. but you have music events, you have various expos and other events that you can attend. And the key here, I mean, I was there over the weekend for the horse racing. I got Ava and Stella. I got Hannah in the stroller. I'm watching the ponies.
MVP card's got more money on it than you know what to do with.
Oh, and I don't know if I started a problem. I mean, future will pay that out. But let's just say Stella hitting a nice little win bet and walking around with a few bucks in her hand.
That's
like,
right.
oh, she did. Cloud nine for her.
I'll tell you what, man, there will be some memories that are made at Canterbury Park this spring and summer. Saturday night, having you, your wife Molly, Ava, Stella, and your daughter Hannah at the racetrack, into the paddock to get a picture with jockey Kelsey Haar, watch a horse run, watch a horse win by a nose, cash a ticket, hug those girls, hug your wife. That was such a wonderful night. I just can't thank you guys enough for coming out, man.
Well, it's one of those things. I've known you long enough now that your version of I'd really like you to do this is a text that says, you know, if possible, I got this thing going on and just wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
There's no chance I'm going to miss that. We're going to be there. We're going to support you. And yeah, I mean, my wife and kids adored it, as anyone can when they go out there. Family day, we're riding ponies and painting our faces. And
well, you're smart because after you cash that ticket on the Chapel Horse Moral Dilemma, who won for $275, you couldn't get out of that racetrack quickly enough. Could
we
you?
had to go.
It's like, where'd they go? Oh, they left with all of our money. and Ava and Stella took my M&Ms. Holy cow, what a bunch of grifters.
Mortgages paid, and Stella got her complimentary 10%. So
thanks for coming, man. That was sweet.
No, it was super cool. CanterburyPark.com for all horse racing, live event, and poker, blackjack, and table game related details. To the Minnesota Twins swept by the Pirates over the weekend in Pittsburgh. That's after losing 3 of 4 to the White Sox. So they have lost 5 straight. Although streaky as they are, they had won 4 out of 5 before that.
Right.
5 out of 6, I should say. So the ebbs and flows, the injuries with Ober, the good times, the bad times. This team, still middling as they are, gets a chance to start a streak of a different color as they host the White Sox. Now, not South Side, but here Target Field side for a 6:40 p.m. first pitch showdown. It will indeed be Joe Ryan and David Sandlin. And the Minnesota Twins, despite all negativity and opinions and all of that, they're still squarely third in the AL Central. White Sox are surging, by the way. They've won 5 in a row. Royals and Tigers dropping off, bottom of the barrel type stuff. Guardians doing what they kind of normally do. They just kind of chill up top until somebody comes and tracks them down. So go Twins tonight.
Shelty's doing a good job with the squad, in my opinion, and I follow it more closely than people think. I think Shelty's doing a good job with what he has. For the Southsiders, they have this rookie Murakami, who he's a little in and out with his performances of late, but he's rookie of the year stock. He tweaked his hamstring in a game. I think it was Saturday. So I'm pretty sure he didn't play yesterday, so he might not be playing. Colston Montgomery is a fantastic, underrated player. And the Sandlin is making his second MLB start. He debuted against the Twins last week, and I thought he looked pretty good. But now they've seen him. So we'll see how Buxton and Larnick and so on can handle this guy in his second start. Should be a good one.
Women's hoops, the Minnesota Lynx continue to win despite not having Nafisa Collier. They just hammered on the Sky. I think that may have been a Friday game, but they're back at it this evening on Peacock. Hey, Peacock, I know where that is. They're at the Phoenix Mercury. It's a 9 p.m. start. And, go Olivia Miles. She was unbelievable in the Friday game. Hopefully they're great again tonight and continuing to win while we await the return. And to be honest with you, I don't know when she's slated to return. But Collier on the shelf, I think it's an ankle. And hopefully she's back soon. But the Lynx, 6-2 and rolling. To the NBA over the weekend here, it was a finale. It was a Game 7. It was an opportunity for OKC to potentially become the first back-to-back NBA champion in like a decade. Well, it didn't happen.
A magical season that has superseded every expectation will continue as the Spurs are headed to the NBA Finals. 111-103.
And I know we're going to continue, and there's a ramp up to this. I mean, my goodness, how I assume Bettman and Silver's people get together on this, because we were just talking to Mick Tockett, And game 1 tomorrow night, it'll be Hurricanes and Vegas Golden Knights. Then it's Wednesday, NBA Finals. And they basically have this thing planned out over the next 2 weeks, where even if both games go to 7, you're rarely going to have an off night for one of the two series, and they will not overlap at all. So I know our favorite teams are in it. I even got a text while you were talking to Micheletti. Well, the Wild are out, so no one cares about hockey. Actually, our investment in the Wild, them winning a series for the first time, us being bitter with how the Avalanche series ended, and then watching the Vegas Golden Knights roll in and sweep them. Guess what? I am invested in seeing how this Stanley Cup Final plays out. I am a Rube. I am a sports fan. My team doesn't belong at the table with OKC and the Spurs right now. How did they get there? I'm excited to watch the teams that are there and figure out how my favorite team could get over that hump at some point. I can't wait for these two series to kick off.
To each their own with their distractions.
Sure.
From personal and or professional endeavors in life. Sports, specifically with the core four, NBA, NHL, NFL, MLB. Those happen to be mine/ours.
Yeah.
Now to the 64686.
You also like dealing with your lawn because you are the OG, which is what?
I'm the original gardener. I've tried wildflowers this year by the mailbox. Might have gotten a little too much rain. Might have had some runoff there because I didn't put that aggressive that plastic thing around it that I was supposed to, but that's okay. We'll deal with that later. Why do I care about that? Because I'm OG. The original gardener. Now, off 64686 guy. To say nobody cares about hockey because the Wild aren't playing means if you are speaking for the masses, this is not the state of hockey.
Ooh.
So is it or is it not the state of hockey?
I think it's the state of hockey.
It's not just the state of hockey when Jackson Blake is tearing it up in Pee-wees in Eden Prairie,
right,
and then playing for the Canes for the Cup, and look what we do. That's all we do is produce talent. All the hockey players come back to Minnesota to live here spring, summer, and fall before they go back to places across the Great Divide. Are we the state of hockey or not? I don't care that the Stanley Cup Final begins June 2nd on the calendar.
Right.
Because that means we have had series and postseason situations with the NHL and the NBA that have stretched said distraction factor long enough so that we don't need to dive into the extra innings package and figure out why Julio Rodriguez strikes out so much for the Mariners. So it all is a self-fulfilling sports-related prophecy here. But if you are of the variety that's like, I'm turning off Tocchet, I'm turning off 9 to Noon, I'm turning off Barrero when he has the Godfather Lou Nanny, because the Wild aren't involved, so therefore nobody cares about hockey, then that means this place is not the state of hockey.
Yeah, and it's super narrow casting, but just even being up at Ballard's last week, like the guide went to high school with Brock Nelson, each of these games, watching the sweep up there, filling the play. This is the state of hockey. Mm-hmm. People care about this. People cared about how Vegas would fare against Colorado. Mm-hmm. People care about Brenda Moore's team doing what they're doing, tearing up the East and finding their way to the final. People care about that kind of stuff. It is the state of hockey. I believe that self-proclaimed nickname rings true as it pertains to puck.
As hockey players go, they've been known to, because so many of them live in Minnesota during the part of the spring, the summer, and then they head back to their teams. So, like Clayton Keller has watched a race in the announcer's booth at Canterbury Park.
Oh, cool.
I met Brock Nelson that way. I met Brady Shea that way.
Yeah.
I met Jake Gensel out at Canterbury Park.
Didn't you meet Biggie Funk? Blake Wheeler?
Blake Wheeler.
I think he's been up there.
Very first ones that I met many years ago. And like Kaprizov, Hartman, a lot of people, thanks to Gorg, have watched races in the press box or in the box at CBY. Well, opening weekend, Ryan Paling from the Anaheim Ducks was at Canterbury because he owns a horse that's running here.
I think he's a Lakeville kid, right?
Yes. And he had with him Stars goalie Jake Ottinger. So,
sweet.
Got a couple of in the paddock fist bumps with I can't remember the other guy, but it was Paley, Ottinger, and somebody else. Horse ran last.
I always love that one.
Don't be mad at the racetrack. Yeah. Don't be mad at the horse. Okay,
it's the track's fault.
It's a baby horsey, and hopefully you guys come back again soon.
It's early in the season.
Horse just ran last.
That's News de Nord, brought to you by The Casino. And, of course, live racing experience you'll get at CanterburyPark.com.
KFAN Sports Time, 11:05. When we return, we preview the NBA Finals. That's next on KFAN.
Time for you to vent to the Vox, taking your takes and talkbacks through the iHeartRadio app all morning long on